Thanks, cool, man, this is great. Something happens. I start to, without me being aware, I'm starting to move towards the uptight end of the continuum. I go into the world of mind. My grandma starts to say all this stuff to me. And before I know it, in a minute, in an instant, I am crunched up, and that all happens. I was completely unaware that I had any input in this process, that I had any control over this process. Uptight is a literal term. Up means up in the world of mind. So there's 3 different realms of awareness. The first realm of awareness is our surroundings. What I want you guys to do right now is to become aware of light and shadows in the room. Have that be your focus. Good. Now what I want you to do is shift your awareness to the sound of the air conditioning. Notice how before you weren't even aware of it, now it's super loud. So what we're doing here is we're playing with our awareness. And we can shine it in 3 different areas. One was your physical, external, like your immediate environment. Things you can pick up with your sensory receptors, sight, sounds, things in your visual field. The second realm of awareness is what's going on internally. Breathing, sensations, feelings. So let's play with that for a second. Just go ahead and close your eyes for a moment. Drop your awareness inward. And like really check in, do like a body scan. Notice the path of your breath as it comes in, slides in front of that beautiful, pure, uncontaminated heart of hearts of yours in the center of your chest, fills up your belly, and slides right back behind your heart of hearts on the way out. Notice any tension you may feel in your body, if any at all, maybe in your face or your jaws or your forehead. And there's no struggling here, there's no straining, there's nothing for you to figure out, nothing for you to analyze, nothing for you to accomplish. All that's required is some effort. And that effort is for you to guide your spotlight of awareness where you want it to be, which at this moment is on what's going on inside. And keep in mind, guys, there's no right or wrong way to do this. Whatever you're doing is perfect. Now take that spotlight of awareness of yours, which again is firmly rooted in the present moment called now, which you have the ability to control and shine moment to moment, breath to breath. And at this moment, shift it from your body now to your face. Simply noticing any tension that may be present in your face, maybe in your jaws or in your forehead. Now you may notice as we're doing this, as we're playing with our spotlight of awareness, it may want to drift away and go someplace else. Maybe it's drifting away to noises that you're hearing. Maybe it drifts away up into the world of mind, thinking about something you have to do. It's perfectly okay. It's normal, it's natural, it's like rain and sunshine. If and when you notice that, just gently and purposefully and intentionally guide your spotlight of awareness back to where you want it to be, which at this moment is on your face, noticing the area around your eyes and your eyelids, and particularly your eyes and the weight of your eyelids against your eyes. Take your spotlight of awareness, which again is firmly rooted in the present moment called now, which you have the ability to control and shine where you want it to be, and shift it into the world of mind, and just simply notice what's going on there. And as you go up into the world of mind, remember that your mind belongs to you, you do not belong to it. It's a tool for you to use and to manage. Now take that spotlight of awareness of yours, which again is rooted in the present moment called now, which you have the ability to control and shine where you want it to be, moment to moment and breath to breath, and shift that awareness now back to your face, specifically the area around your eyes and your eyelids, noticing the weight of your eyelids against your eyes. And when you're ready, there's no rush, but when you're ready, just go ahead and open your eyes up. This ability to be able to intentionally and purposefully guide our spotlight of awareness where we want it to be is directly correlated with you being really connected with what's true for you, right? You being able to be centered and clear and to check in with yourself. I've also found it's exceptionally helpful with deploying EQ in communication with people. Because there's 2 components to this relationship game. One is the relationship that you have with yourself. The second is we live on a planet in which we interact with other humans. Everything that we have, everything that you have at this moment has been touched by human hands. Everything comes to us through other humans, so we have to interact with other humans, and with other humans comes conflict or miscommunication, things of that nature. But where it begins is it begins with my relationship with myself, and this is a critical component of that, because all the way up to those 100 deals, and what it was creating in my body, because I was doing what Greg was doing, but just doing it every single day. And then what's a yummy, delicious byproduct of that is that level of awareness helps you to be able to connect with people at a higher level, because you can notice things as they're coming up. Yeah, so my ability to be able to deploy that is directly correlated with what we just did. is to be as centered and clear as possible, so that way I can notice things as they're coming up. And then I can share what's true for me as it's coming up. So there's this really interesting misconception. So the misconception that we have is that things happen, and then I have my response or my reaction to those things that happened. And that's how 95% of the population lives their life, right? And so they're constantly doing what? Blaming others, external circumstances, blah, 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 as though others are responsible for where they are in the imaginary continuum. Whose responsibility is where you are in the imaginary continuum? It's mine, bro. So what's actually true is that there's a step in between. Events occur, my response or my reaction, but there's a step in between. The step in between is my opinions or my judgment. So something takes place, I have an opinion or a judgment about what's happening, then I have a response or a reaction. Okay? So if this is accurate, so let's play this out. So something happens, let's say you get a shitty review. What is, and I think, okay, I just respond or I react to that, but what's happening in this step? What's my opinion or my judgment? I'm never gonna get another thing, all this shit's gonna fuck up, blah, blah, blah. And then I have my response or my reaction. What's causing the pain is actually my opinion or my judgment. It's not, right, this is what's causing it. And what's interesting about that is, do you have control over that? Yeah, that's fascinating. But we have, as humans, we have the power, we have this unbelievable kind of divine power, which is to give things meaning. And that meaning can either be empowering or it can be disempowering, right? So in the Bible it says, "And life and death is in the tongue," so I can either build something up with words or I can tear it down with words. But they're saying the same thing. It's right here. It's my opinion or my judgment about what's taking place, not the actual event itself. So what if I told you, your beliefs don't make you a free thinker? The ability to change your beliefs based on new information is what makes you a free thinker. My ability to change my beliefs based on new information. Remember, a belief is just an opinion that you've developed loyalty to over time. It doesn't make it, it's just a belief. It's just an opinion. Usually when I'm over here, what came to the surface is like, yeah, it's the story that I'm telling myself or what my gremlin's telling me that's causing me to be over here. To me, that's jamming your own thumb in your own eye. So let's say you came to me and you were like, hey, my eye hurts. Kirill says, hey, my eye hurts, man. I'm like, okay. I sit him on a couch and we can talk about why he jams his own thumb in his own eye. Like maybe he came from a long line of eye jabbers. Maybe he wanted to suck his thumb as a kid and somebody fucking spanked him, so he came up with a piss poor alternative, which was to jam it in his own eye. Like, that could be interesting, and it could be even insightful. Far less effective and efficient, though, if I can help you to simply notice that it's your fucking thumb that you're jamming in your own eye. Because when you begin to notice that it's your thumb that you're jamming in your own eye, the observer, the witness or the watcher, the one who learned how to walk and talk without any instruction, the one who has a body but doesn't answer to their body, the one who has a name, Kiro, but isn't like, the one who has a body but is not their body, the one who has answers to a name but is not their name, the one who has thoughts but is not the thoughts, the observer, right? So if I asked you to reflect on when you were 7, your body was completely different, but the awareness was there. So the observer, the one who's witnessing and watching this whole thing go down, when you showed that one that it's your own thumb that you're jamming in your own eye, a natural correction takes place. And that's what Rick calls the Zen theory of change, which is that I free myself not by trying, right, to free myself. I don't get out of jail by bending the bars, gnashing my teeth, or blowing it up. I free myself by simply noticing how I am imprisoning myself in the very moment in which I'm doing it. So I had already been studying with Rick for 6 or 7 years. And he's like, hey, there's usually 5 ways, not always, the majority of the time, 5 ways that people jam their own thumb in their own eye. Here are the 5 ways, okay? The first one is you scare yourself. Okay, scare the shit out of yourself, telling yourself a catastrophic story about something that's going to happen in the future. Now, my gremlin's particular brand of magic was that, right? Deploy that on a regular basis. Like, no more. I started to keep a gremlin taming journal. You know what every fucking entry in that journal was? About listings. There's not enough. I've only taken 4. What the fuck? I'm gonna end up broken alone by myself. Like, it was the same fucking thing I'm telling you. For those of you guys, next time we're on a call, I'll show you. I'll pull out I have journals fucking filled with entries. And that was interesting to me because I noticed a pattern. Remember we talked about recognizing patterns? It was the same pattern. And what it's about is underneath is the need for security, right? It was a very strong one. But we scare the shit out of ourselves. And what we do is we go up into the world of mind. It's like there's a movie theater. We go up into the world of mind. It's an empty movie theater. We sit down. Our gremlin sits right next to us and is like, hey, John, here's a really shitty movie. Let's watch it together. And you're like, no. He's like, no, it's fucking great. Yeah, here's some popcorn. And you're like, okay. And you sit there and you watch this fucking shitty movie about terrible, catastrophic things happening in the future that almost invariably never happen. But think about what that does. Anybody besides me ever watch a scary movie and their heart rate started beating faster? 100%. It's a fucking movie, but it's like, boop, 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 boop. Like you get into fight or flight response. The same thing happens internally. If we're watching that terrible, shitty movie in the future, it's flooding our system in the same way, right? So that's the first way that we do it. The second way we do it, and I see this so much in our industry and in our game, is we put ourselves down. And the primary way we do that is by comparing ourselves to other people. Well, fuck, like Mark, he just figured out that probate shit and he's just like crushing it, man. I'm not doing that. Fuck. Or you know what, Greg, he made $317,000 on a flip. Like, I wish I could do that. Or fucking Jose with his social shit. We're just comparing ourselves to other people and we put ourselves down, right? Which again is a form of eye-jabbing. So we scare the shit out of ourselves. We put ourselves down by comparing ourselves to other people. We get mired in regret, okay? Mired in regret. And this is, I should have said it this way. I should have done this. I should have done that. And what you end up doing is shoulding all over yourself. The fourth one is I cling to resentment. Fucking, this person didn't choose me as their coach or their sponsor. And I'm gonna continue to be uptight and pissed off until they say they're sorry. Where the Buddha said like however many years ago that resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And then this fifth one is you trap yourself in a concept of the way that you think you are supposed to be, right? Of like what I feel like I should be doing. So I'll give you an example. Like I was doing a piece of work with this woman, she's a hard charging agent, and she said something on a call to me. She was like, you know, I'm the kind of woman that believes I should cook for my husband every night. Meanwhile, she's trying to do like 70 deals a year, okay? And I was like, that's interesting. Now, whenever anybody says I'm the kind of, or I always, or I never, what are they doing right in front of you? 100%, brother. They're hypnotizing themselves. Out of an infinity of possibilities and choices, they're telling themselves one thing. If they said that out loud to you, they said it in their head millions of times. They're just hypnotizing themselves right in front of you. So I was like, okay, well, where did you get that idea? And she stopped and thought about it. She's like, well, my mom. I was like, okay. So walk me through that, like what happens? But she was like, no, but I do enjoy like cooking and stuff. Like it's part of my love language, like I like it. I said, okay, well, let's walk through it. Let's imagine for a moment, I had her close her eyes. Let's imagine for a moment, you get home from a full day. You prospected, you did all the work, you did all that stuff, and you're tired. And now you're walking into the kitchen. Like, are you physically somewhere where you can walk into your kitchen? She's like, yep. I'm like, all right, walk in. And imagine you have this thing, this thing on your backpack. I have to do this. I have to cook a meal. So she starts to walk around. I'm like, okay, make your breathing shallow and quick, like create lots of tension internally. What am I helping her to do? Move herself to the uptight end of the continuum. And showing the observer that she has control over doing that. And she doesn't realize that. I don't need to tell her that because the observer gets it. So doing this, I said, what are you noticing? She's like, oh man, I'm getting lots of tension. Like my breathing's starting to get in quick. And I'm like, all right, what is your grandma telling you? Like, you have to do this. You have to do this. So I actually had her say it out loud. So walk around your kitchen, scrunched up. I have to do this. I have to make a meal. I have to make a meal. I have to make a meal. Fuck, I gotta make a meal. Gotta make it do this. Oh. And then I had her do that for like a minute or two. And I asked her a question. Tell me this, what are you afraid of? I'm afraid that if I don't make the meal, he'll just have a can of tuna fish. And I'm like, okay. And what are you afraid will happen then? She's like, well, if he can just eat a can of tuna fish and he's happy with it, what does he need me for? I was like, you're giving a lot of meaning to a can of tuna fish. Right? It's a tremendous amount of meaning that you're giving to that can of tuna fish. Right? And then what ended up happening is she's like, so what this is about, it's about taking what you like and leaving what you don't. So what about this don't you like? Well, I don't feel like this thing where it was self-imposed, like I have to, I feel trapped. But there's also part of me where I like to, there's a part of me where I enjoy it, right? But what was really underneath it is a fear. that if I don't do this, I won't receive love, right? And I have to do this in order to receive love. But helping someone to become self-aware of that, it's exceptionally helpful because now she can regulate where she is on the imaginary continuum. Does that make sense? All right. Now, these are all forms of attachment, by the way, which the Buddha said that all suffering comes from attachment. So scaring yourself about terrible, catastrophic images in the, like, of things that could happen in the future, potentially, what is that an attachment to? Showing yourself terrible, catastrophic movies about shit that can happen in the future, what is that an attachment to? Uncertainty, loss. It's an attachment to outcomes in the future, that they need to be a certain way. Putting yourself down, comparing yourself to other people, what is that an attachment to? How you see yourself, self-image. And again, I need to perform this way in order to receive what? Love. Or acceptance. Yeah. Putting yourself down? Yeah. Yeah, and we have a tendency to do that, right? Being mired in regret, what is that an attachment to? The past. You ever notice that some people, I heard Rick say this on a call one time, he did this like piece of work with someone, and I've had the good fortune of being in the room with him like hundreds of times when he's done that. And he said, you know, he had the person grab a backpack. A lot of this is like physically playing out, so that way you can show the observer how you're jamming your own thumb in your own eye. So there was a relationship in the past that was like, you know, bothering her, and he had her grab a backpack and something that was heavy and put it on. And then he had her walk around with it. And he's like, what are you noticing? He's like, oh man, there's tension on my shoulders. Like, what's happening? And there's creating tension in her body. And he's like, okay. And he's like, so what do you want? Do you want to keep carrying it? She was like, no. He's like, I'm sorry, call me out by name and tell me you don't want to keep carrying it. Like Aaron, I don't want to keep carrying it. Okay, cool. What do you want? I want to take the backpack off. He's like, are you sure? Do you have control over taking the backpack off? Yeah, I do. Okay, so go ahead and take it off. And then she took it off. He's like, what are you noticing? Oh man, I feel lighter and great. He's like, great. And then he asked her a question. He said, hey, are you holding on to your past, or is your past holding on to you? Clinging to resentment is attachment to what? Thinking somebody owes me something. What is that an attachment to? Entitlement, okay. So I'm not gonna pretend that whatever's happening to cause you to feel the resentment is not real, because it's real. And it's moving you to the uptight end of the continuum. How long you choose to stay there though and hold on to it is entirely up to you. We started this conversation with seeing that relationships is directly correlated with longevity and health. And it actually protects our bodies and our minds. And we said, okay, well, first I need to have a relationship with myself. And we worked on that, right? In terms of spotlight of awareness, things of that nature, that imaginary continuum piece, so we can see that. And you're right as far as anchoring is concerned, because with the imaginary continuum, I want you to, like, in your mind, have a visual of that. So you can see in experiences that you have, like, hey, where am I in the imaginary continuum right now? And what happened to cause me to get here? And how long have I been here for? And is, like, am I telling myself some sort of story? Am I grappling with my gremlin? Or is it my opinion or my judgment about what's happening that's keeping me here, right? So then I can regulate where I am on that imaginary continuum. That's an exceptional skill to have, right? Exceptional skill. At the same time, we also live on a planet where we have to deal with other humans. So it would be one thing if I didn't have to deal with other humans and I can regulate where I'm on the imaginary continuum. That'd be cool, but we are, you know, not only in a business, but in our experience in life, we have to deal with other humans. So there is a system for having authentic, meaningful conversation with other humans, exchanging information, and it's called iCreate. So what I love about this acronym is it's stating specifically what we're doing. iCreate. I am consciously and purposely creating these types of experiences for myself and other people. And the I stands for intention. So intention is like a colorful dye. So if you dropped food coloring into, like red food coloring into a bottle of water, the first drop you won't really notice, second drop it'll turn, you know, as you continue to drop drops in, it turns pink, then a little rose colored, and then it keeps getting deeper and deeper until it turns red. Intention is the same way. So if my intention is to take something from somebody, what is my tonality going to be like? Aggressive. Yeah, what are my choice of words? About you, of course. About me. I'm probably going to lead with authority, right? How about my body language, if my intention is to take something from somebody?
Space, taking up space.
Yeah, taking up space, like all that. So it bleeds into everything. And you have to be a sociopath to hide it. Hide intention, right? I'm sure you've been around somebody where you knew that their intention was to take and you could feel it. But it's like, what? How did you come to that conclusion? It's like we all speak a language, but we don't realize that it's like this unspoken agreement that there's this language that we speak, but we don't talk about it. And that's the I. And the C is connection. And connection is like, it's like electricity to a Tesla. Like without the electricity, the car won't go. And you know when you're connected with somebody. Remember, words are just half-assed attempts to try to describe a feeling. Vibe is a word to try to describe a feeling. Flow is a word to try to describe a feeling. And they're like one-dimensional. They're like a note card. It's just a label that we put onto something that's multi-dimensional, multifaceted. So connection, and without the connection, the whole thing doesn't really work. Respect is the R. So I may not respect a lot of things about you. I may not respect your politics. I may not respect what you do with your extracurricular activities, with your money, how you treat your significant other. But what I damn sure can respect is, like, right now, each and every one of you are spending some of your non-refundable precious breaths with me. Time on planet Earth that you will never ever get back, right? It doesn't work that way. There's only expenditures, there's no deposits, right? And I'm also aware, let's say in our businesses, whatever we're doing, trading time for money, that not only are people expending some of their non-refundable precious breaths with us, they're also willing to give us a lot of their own money. Because I'm curious, did John go to work for 30 years to pay down the principal and build up all that equity? No, he just shows up and gets 6% of it or 5% of it or whatever it is. 30, 40, 50, 60,000 bucks in some instances in his marketplace. Now imagine if you entered interactions with that level of respect. Like, hey, Mark is spending some of his life away from his family, friends, loved ones, away from Derek, his significant other, to be with me today. Not only that, he's willing to share some of his resources with me. How would that change the interaction? How would that alter
your intention? It would make sure your intention was...
Yeah, and then when I said thank you, I would mean it. So first and foremost, I just want to begin our time together, Jose, just by saying thank you for providing me the opportunity to share some information with you and potentially help you in some way. But I mean it. And when we were on a Clubhouse call recently, I shared that with people. I'm like, bro, like, you guys are, and I understand, they want to come to me and listen to me with words and tonality and NLP and all this other shit. But underneath that, if the intention is to take, it's not really gonna, people will get it, they'll feel it. You'll still produce outcomes that you want, but they won't be disproportional. They won't be, unfair share. Again, respect though, because I view all of those people in that context, in any context, let's say business context, I respect and appreciate the opportunity to share information, and I respect their time because it's non-refundable, and I respect the fact that they're willing to share money with me, right? I also do the same thing with coaching clients. There's 2 people in this room that I have worked with or continue to work with where they've called me and said to me, like, hey man, you're the one who's always added value to me. Or you're the one that I know has my best interest at heart. And you're not just looking at me like, oh, like I can make a little cheese, right? So I have a lot of different people that I could call, but I'm calling you for a reason. Like, again, because that's coming from my intention is to add value, right? And it's to serve and connect, and I'm very respectful of the opportunity. Because you could be choosing to spend some of your time doing anything else and resources than anybody else, but you're choosing to spend some with me. Again, what this is about is like being and becoming. And you have to be very careful with the people that you give access to your thinking, and have to be asking yourself, what do they have me saying and doing, and is that okay? Is that in alignment with the person that I want to become? Right? Is that in alignment with the life that I want to create for myself and those that are around me? The next piece is environment. Environment is everything from your heart of hearts out. So environment extends to things like the firmness of my handshake, my gaze, am I looking at you, the softness of my gaze, how I'm breathing, right? Anybody besides me ever been around somebody who won't look at you in the face? They won't look at you directly in the face. They're like, or around, or shifty. Like immediately, what are you thinking? Like, what? I can't trust this person. Something's like, what's the deal, right? So it's that, but it's also things in my immediate environment. So let's say I wanted to have a meaningful conversation with Kuro, like a heart-to-heart conversation with him. Is a restaurant with lots of people around and noise the best environment to do that? No. It's just not. It's not conducive for connection though. Just like if I want to have like a conversation with a seller about lowering their price, is doing that while I'm in the car driving the best way to, like the best environment for that? No, it's not the most like intentional and purposeful environment. So one of the things I learned from Rick, because I got to see his physical space, which he recently let go of, and he only meets with people like virtually now. But in this physical space, when I walked in, I became very, very hyper aware of his environment, where the lights, the type of light, is it white or is it yellow? Yellow. It's yellow, because white is very sterile. Yellow's warm and inviting. And then I noticed the tones and the colors. It was like wood, like, and then when as soon as you walk in, he has like a book of people that have signed in and said thank you, which is pretty dope, right? About like their experience or whatever. And he has a book of gremlins because he has people personify their gremlins, where they draw them. So there's a book of all these different young people, old people, like, and you could just flip through like while you're waiting to see them, like, oh shit, that's pretty cool. And what their gremlins are saying to them, you know, like in a little bubble. And then you go back into his space, and what was so cool about his space is that there's 2 couches that are leathery and soft, very inviting, right? He's got like little throw on it, it's comfortable, again, white, yellow lighting. And then there's pictures of all of his love, like people, relationships in his life that are really important to him. Right next to like where he, and then the couch, it faces a huge window like this, so it goes out into a green space. All of it is, and then his chair had to do with proximity. His chair is on wheels, so he can get closer to you or farther away from you. So the first time we sat down, we were going to co-collaborate on material. He's like, all right, we need to get really centered and clear, connect with our heart of hearts, and we want to work from this place. The moment that you feel you're drifting away from this place, we're going to stop working. Because I want it to come from there, right? So he's like, all right, well, let's center ourselves. He got fucking like this close to me, nose to nose, like knees together in his chair, staring right at me. I don't like that level of attention. That's like a little like scary at first. You're like, yeah, you're like, holy shit. And then we closed our eyes, right? He led me through, guided, like I led you through. And then he opened our eyes. He's like, all right, let's go to work. And I just thought to myself, like, wow, that's so interesting. Like, not only is the environment completely conducive for connection, but he's checking in with himself, and both of us are getting really centered and clear so we can leap off from that place moving forward. And that's interesting, right? But it's also exceptionally thoughtful. He also, you know what he did too? Because thoughtfulness is really caring. So in his room, because I stayed at his house, and in the room that we stayed at, in my room, he had books on the table that he thought I would be interested in. Like in the bathroom, like, you know, like the soap and like the thing and like a little like towel and like all this stuff, and like a welcome note. And I just thought to myself, like, man, that's so thoughtful. It just demonstrates caring, right? Which is, again, conducive, and it's part of the environment. The A is authenticity. Now, authenticity is a cousin of honesty, but they're different, okay? So expressing what's true for you, not making a case about why it's true, but just that's true. So usually when we get into conversations with people, so let's say you might be in a conversation with your wife and you're having a disagreement of some sort. Usually what we'll do is we enter into like attorney mode. Yeah. It's like you're the prosecution, like, I'd like to enter into exhibit A. Because you fucking said this, and you did this, right? And then she becomes the defense. Well, I'd like to enter into exhibit, or he, B. You said this, you did this, right? And that doesn't lead to constructively working through conflict. Instead, what authenticity, something that would sound like, is like, hey, you know, I'm noticing that you seem to be upset. I'm also aware that it's based on this. And I'm imagining that, you know, you're thinking this, and then hush breathing and listen. And that's what comes up. Or, hey, you know what? When you say that to me, I just need you to know this may not be an intention. I'm aware that it actually hurts my feelings. That's authentically expressing what's true as it's coming up. Like, hey, I'm noticing, like, I really appreciate hanging out with you. And that's authentically expressing what comes up in the moment. So one time, like, me and Rick, we were like, which I didn't like, because he was trying to negotiate with me. He wanted me to like buy like the whole Taming Your Gremlin fucking intellectual property. And we were and he was being unreasonable. And, it was weird. It's like, Well, that, and you're negotiating with like your fucking mentor. Like, it's weird. I didn't enjoy it, right? I didn't enjoy like how that felt. And he said something to me one time, and usually when he was like seeing a lot of people, like, 15 people a day, you didn't have a lot of time to talk to him. It was in between sessions. So he's like, I got 5 minutes. So we were having a conversation, and it was awkward. There was unfinished business. He's like, hey, I gotta go, and he hung up. And it felt really like unfinished. He called me 4 times the same day to get back on the phone. And I was like, hey, he's like, because he doesn't like the way it feels in his body. I don't like the unfinishedness.
Yeah, same here.
So he's like, if there's an opportunity to like express what's true and hash it out, he moves towards it, not away from it. And it's actually selfishly motive. So I told him one time, I'm like, hey, this is like really selfish, man. He's like, you're goddamn right it's selfish. It's my life. Like, I want to enjoy my experience. And then the last is trust. Now, when Rick first told me trust, what do you think popped into my head? Getting someone else to trust me. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm good at that. I can go in, I can use my NLP, I can anchor, I can fucking do this and this, and I can do small black cubes, and I can get people to trust me. He was like, no, you're missing the point. It's not what this is about. This is about trusting this process. It's about letting go of trying to rigidly control the outcome. And instead trusting that if my intention is to connect with respect in an environment where I can be 100% authentic, trusting I'm gonna have a great experience. The E is the experience piece. And that's what this is about. So I'll give you an example. I'll give it to you in one context. So in a business context, I remember I went on an appointment, this is a long time ago. And the lady told me when I hit the door that her husband had passed away. And they were married. I'm like, oh, if you don't mind me asking, how long were you married? It was a long time, like 40 years. That's why she was selling. So we're walking through the house and I see pictures still up. And I just asked her, I'm like, was this him? And she said, yeah, and she started to get like, emotional. I'm like, okay. And then we sat down at the table and I'm like, hey, I'm noticing that this seems to be still very fresh for you. And I'm also aware that it can be difficult for you physically to be in this space because of everything it brings up. And I want you to know that my intention today is to provide you with all the information you need so you can decide what you feel is best. Whatever you decide, I'm going to support you 100%. Is that okay? She's like, yeah, that's fine. So we go through the presentation, and again, initially that's EQ, I'm deploying it. I'm aware of the situation, situational awareness, I'm letting you know, right? Like I'm clear on what's going on here. And then as we go through the conversation, she gets upset a few times. Cool. At the end of the presentation, I noticed what was true for me, is I was like, hey, she didn't sign a contract. And I said to her like, hey, I'm noticing that I want to give you a hug, like, would that be okay? And she was like, sure. And I gave her a hug. You know how many people I've asked that who've said no? Fucking zero. And she was like, okay, and I hugged her, and I walked out the door and I didn't have a contract signed. And there was this smashing of 2 experiences. I felt fucking fantastic. Like right, but I didn't get the contract signed. I felt fucking fantastic. Like I just felt like I connected with somebody, I added value to them. I felt so good internally. And my gremlin came swooping out of like the fucking bushes with grenades, like fucking like rocket launchers and shit, throwing fucking, like, are you fucking kidding me? This namby-pamby horse shit? Like, you really think that if you don't fucking listen to me and only me, he's like, you know how fucking far I've gotten you? Like, you really think this fucking lovey-dovey giving people hugs shit is like gonna do something for you? And it was so interesting because I had to make a decision what I was gonna listen to. Was it gonna be my gremlin or my heart of hearts? And I just knew that it was that feeling that I was after. Like, yeah, I like the contract sign, but it's really the feeling that I was after. So I made a decision to listen to my heart of hearts and have that be the guiding principle. So getting the contract signed is the icing on the cake. It's not the cake though. And I like icing. It tastes good. It's fucking sweet. I like it. The cake is the experience underneath. So this is iCreate. Now, then there's another tool that we have at our disposal called responsible semantics. So you hear me do this all the time, and some of you who have been playing with gremlin taming for a while know this. It's a gentle reminder. There's specific semantics that you can use, and this will be good for you, John, as you're having conversations with your significant other. And these are the semantics, okay? And I remember responsible semantics, I used to think that this was for the other person. It's not, it's for you. So when you say I'm aware, what does that cause you to become?
Aware.
Aware. It causes you to actually be aware. When you say I'm noticing, what does that cause you to do? Notice. Notice. Cause you to get clear on what you're noticing. When you say I'm imagining, what does that do for you? You're reminding yourself, I could be completely making this shit up. You'll hear me say a lot too, my hallucination is, why am I saying that? I'm reminding myself like I'm making this up. I don't know if this is accurate or not. Or you even, I'll say to you guys, whether it's in a group call or an individual call, it's like, hey, here's what I'm noticing. I don't know if this is true or not. Like, let me know if this is accurate. What does that cause you to get really clear on?
What you want to know.
What you want to deploy. How hard is it to actually say what it is that you want?
It can be hard.
It can be very hard. Ryan, I remember there's a story that just popped into my head with this and responsible semantics. Like it was a while ago, and you were dating someone, and it had been going on for a little bit, and you weren't feeling it anymore, and your tendency in the past would have been to do what?
Ghost them.
Ghost them, hard. Yeah. Fucking just disappear off planet Earth.
Hard ghost.
Look at John. John's like, fuck those guys, yeah. That's a great strategy. So, and I said to him on a call, again, lovingly, I'm like, dude, you have two options and choices. Like, I'm not gonna slap your wrist and be like, naughty, naughty. That's like, don't do that. I'm aware that each one of those have different experiences internally, and you have a choice. You can either be a chicken shit, which is what ghosting is, and hiding, or you can show up fully and completely and express what's true. Either one's up to you, and whatever you decide is fine. Like, he had an option and a choice, and this is how you deploy this, because remember, we started this idea, relationships matter, they're part of longevity, they actually protect us, they protect our body, they protect our minds. So first is a relationship with ourselves, the second is the relationship with other people. We have the iCreate method of how to do that: intention, connection, respect, environment, authenticity, trust, experience. And then we have these responsible semantics. I'm aware, I'm noticing, I'm imagining, I want you to know, I want, I don't want. Hey, I've been hesitant to share this with you until now because.
That's so good. Yeah.
What would that cause you to get really clear on? Cause me to get clear on what I'm actually afraid of. Like, I've been hesitant to share this with you until now because I'm imagining that when I do, you're gonna get angry. And it could jeopardize our relationship in some way. You know, at the same time, there's something that's bothering me. Are you open to having a candid conversation? I had a conversation with John recently. I'm like, hey bro, I'm like, here's what's true for me. This is what's true for me. And I don't want you to, like, what's also true for me is there's a part of me that feels this way, right? At the same time, I love you, bro. Like, you know what I mean? Just being authentic and straightforward with regards to what's true. I've been hesitant to share this with you until now because I'm imagining that if I do, this will happen. Super rare, especially in men, because it's all like, you know what I mean? Like being able to authentically communicate and express what's true. And that goes back to doing work with people that I like and enjoy. And demonstrating modeling behavior. So what's interesting is, in this field on the Gremlin Academy call we do, they're also all men on the call. And I think and I asked Rick, 80% of his clients are men. I was like, why do you think that is? He's like, because it's modeling behavior. You model behavior for other people. And then they're like, okay, this is cool, we can do this. Like, it's okay, this is a setting where this is all right.
All you guys listening right now, I want you to drop in the comments what you think about the dirty bird actually causing lots of inflammation in your system. And if you'd be willing, in order to perform optimally and have your body be functioning with less inflammation, to eat less or actually rid it of your diet.